Thai opposition files a legal challenge against Sunday's elections. Most of the stalls in a Kwun Tong street market cease operation, and an effort to change the stamp duty amendment bill.
Good evening. Anti-government protesters in Thailand have ramped up rallies once again. This as the opposition Democrat Party is challenging last Sunday's election in court, while the Election Commission probes possible campaigning irregularities. The government of caretaker Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra had hoped the contentious snap election would restore order as well as legitimacy. But as James Aiken reports, the elections could be the beginning of a new round of political unrest.
2 days after the protest movement attempted to derail a national election, it's business as usual for demonstrators. And anti-government sentiment among opponents of caretaker Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra is as strong as ever. Thailand's economy is being battered by the 3-month-long conflict, but the continued deadlock hasn't been bad news for everyone. This street vendor says she makes more money selling whistles now than in her previous business. But the unrest is taking a toll. The tourism, retail, and construction sectors are struggling. Foreign investment could soon be siphoned off by other nearby countries. And now China has pulled out of a deal to buy more than 1 million tons of Thai rice amid a corruption probe into a government subsidy program. Protesters say Yingluck's government is too corrupt to rule. They want her family's influence out of the nation's politics. The opposition Democrats who boycotted the election are filing 2 complaints with the Constitutional Court in a bid to nullify the election results.
Now, the historical record of the Constitutional Court suggests that it will annul the election, and after that, we're in no man's land.
Thailand's election commission says 12 million of the country's 48 million eligible voters couldn't vote because of disruptions by anti-government protesters. Special elections are now required to complete the balloting, likely extending the political paralysis for months. In an optimistic scenario, analysts say an eventual outcome of the turmoil could be some sort of federally guided social contract between the government and the people. But a more pessimistic scenario could see Thailand break apart into entirely separate nations.
At the moment, if you ask me which one of those two is more likely, I have to say, sadly, the odds of the pessimistic scenario are increasing.
James Aiken, TVB News.
Corruption is costing the European Union about 120 billion euros annually, according to a survey by the European Commission. That's the equivalent of an EU annual budget. The report is the first ever by the Commission. It casts the EU, generally considered one of the globe's cleanest regions, in an unflattering light. The report's authors say construction companies, which often tender for government contracts, are the most affected. Almost 8 of 10 complained about corruption. The study suggests up to 1/4 the value of contracts may be lost to corrupt practices. But experience with corruption varies among the countries. Almost all companies in Greece, Spain, and Italy believe it's widespread. Corruption is considered rare in Denmark, Finland, and Sweden.
Media reports in Ukraine say President Viktor Yanukovych may call a snap election if opposition leaders don't compromise. Yanukovych returned to work Monday after 4 days of sick leave. The reports say he told his allies that he won't declare a state of emergency or use force to remove protesters from central Kiev. They've been demonstrating there since November, when Yanukovych spurned a deal with the European Union and sought aid from Russia. He may try to end the impasse by challenging his opponents with an early election. A recent survey showed him and his party topping polls in Ukraine's fragmented political system. 2 people are dead after a heavy snowstorm hit New York yesterday. Another storm is likely to hit the same region later today. The combination of freezing rain and snow has already wreaked havoc on air transportation. About 3,000 flights were delayed and 1,700 canceled. Weather also closed schools across New York and the Northeast. Many returning home from the Super Bowl in the New York City area were snarled in snowbound traffic. The National Weather Service warns snowfall from the combined storms could total 200 millimeters. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio warned residents should prepare for the worst and that using mass transit is safer than driving.
Potentially the most severe of the three that we're dealing with right now.
Local stocks ended the day significantly lower on the first trading day following the Lunar New Year holiday. The Hang Seng Index tumbled 637 points, or 2.89%, to close at 21,397. Analysts say weak manufacturing data from the mainland and the United States helped fuel stocks into the red. Hong Kong wasn't the only major Asian market to fall, with Japan's Nikkei finishing more than 4% lower today.
The start of the new year marks the end of a 30-year-old street market in Kwun Tong. More than 50 shopkeepers moved out today to make way for an urban renewal project. Jenny Lam reports.
A shopkeeper at the Mutwa Street Market in Kwun Tong closes his clothing store for the last time after more than 20 years in business. It was good here, he says. The rent was affordable and there were lots of customers. Some sell off what's left of their stock. Those who hand over their premises today could register with the Urban Renewal Authority for $96,000 in compensation. That's $32,000 more than those who choose to hang on to their shops till the end of the month. This vendor accuses the government of forcing them out with money. We can't win, he says. Our stock isn't even worth what they pay in compensation, he explains. This woman, though, chooses to stay until a new temporary hawkers market is ready. It is not about money. I just want to stay until they finish building the new market, she says. Works on the new temporary market in Tongyang Street, the Urban Renewal Authority admits, has been delayed and won't be ready till March or April. Li Shuwing, the URA spokesman for the Kwun Tong project, has promised $6,000 a month for every vendor until the market is ready to make up for their loss in business. The URA will also store for free their shelves and stock, which they will need to set up shop again. Jenny Lam, TVB News.
The Democratic Party has proposed a number of amendments to the stamp duty amendment bill that will go before the Legislative Council later this month. Rachel Lung has that story.
Questions have been raised about the government's property market cooling measures, including the contentious buyer stamp duty, since they were implemented in October 2012. The issue came under the scrutiny of the bill's committee for more than a year. The second reading of the stamp duty amendment bill is expected to resume at the Legislative Council this month. Today, the Democratic Party proposed a number of amendments. It wants the government to exempt charitable organizations that already own properties from additional stamp duties when they buy new properties. The party also proposed tightening regulations requiring trustees or guardians of mentally impaired people involved in property transactions to be appointed through a legal procedure to prevent any abuse of the tax exemption arrangements. More than a year since the government introduced the buyer stamp duty and adjusted the rates of the special stamp duty, the Legislative Council has yet to pass the two measures, which were put into effect before the completion of legislation. The Democratic Party criticized this procedure.
I also move that the amendment mechanism should be in a way, should be by way of a positive resolution by the legislature. Otherwise, the administration will be easy to pass a subsidiary legislation to change the law through minority vote in LegCo. In extreme case, a minority number of LegCo members can impose their view on the majority of the members. I think that is not a reasonable way for the amendment mechanism.
To added that his amendment proposal has gained support from most of the pan-Democrats. But the Federation of Trade Unions and the Democratic Alliance for the Betterment and Progress of Hong Kong oppose any amendment to the bill. Rachel Ling, TVB News.
And still ahead in our newscast, the role of the LRT under review in rail development strategy. Security tighten in Sochi ahead of the Winter Olympics. And talking cars to avoid road accidents.